Okay, guys, I'm not going to hang around because I've quite a lot to go through and there's a lot of information in this. So let me just start here. And that should let me go. There we go. So I'll give a real short introduction to the device. We'll talk a bit about planning, installation, and commissioning. And then I'm going to show you what we can actually do with the device, how we can get information out of the device up to other systems. As you see there, this local data collection point storing all the information on premises and then send it wherever we want and do whatever we would like with it. So it's really quite good for things like that. So first of all, in our introduction, well, why do we measure energy consumption? I mean, it's the big question nowadays. Everybody's looking to measure energy in some sort of way. Typically, it's with a viewpoint to energy savings. We're looking for where are the leeches in our system that are taking too much energy, where are lights being left on all night, and all that sort of thing that is really starting to cost people now. I know a lot of us now are starting to see new energy price increases coming through, and imagine you're running a business or you're running multi-story operation. There's really a lot of cost you can save now by looking at your energy usage and seeing where you're wasting energy in the business. The ABB EQmatic is a compact web-based solution, and the idea behind it is that it's a simple device, sits on your network in your switchboard, gathers all the information from meters, from whatever we have in the building. We'll see that later, sort of what we can talk to, what we can communicate with. And the idea is that we're closing the gap sort of between the field devices and high-level software applications and making it simple and easy in an installation. The EQmatic gives us various different solutions. I mean, we can record, evaluate, and display different sort of consumption and generated values. You can see there, we can look at energy, heat, gas, water, and all that sort of stuff. And we can take our usage and compare our usage, and we can do all sorts of things with it. We can look at our usage for this month compared to last month. We can set up benchmark periods, and we can try and manage to see what have we done differently over this year, this month, this week compared to previous weeks that is costing us more and is meaning that we're, well, using energy that we don't need. The three basic flavors of the EQmatic are the Modbus on the right. This guy talks Modbus to all devices on his network, okay? In the middle, we have the meter bus device, and he will talk to any of meter bus devices. For you that know meter bus devices, they're really sort of the European meter communication interface. I haven't seen them used here that much. I'm sure somebody's going to contradict me and tell me they've used them, but typically I think Modbus is more commonly used here. And on the left then is the one I'm really going to deep dive into is the KNX version of it. What can we do with the KNX version? Well, we can take all the values from our KNX devices that will give us energy devices. And I'm talking sort of the ZSS meter interface. I'm talking some of the switch actuators, and I'm talking some of the energy modules. They can all provide all the data back to the EQmatic itself. And what we can do with it is we can use that as a central collection for that. We can fire it from there to a head end. We can produce reports, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever reports we want to produce. And we can also start some clever load management. We can look at what we are currently using in the system. Do we know suddenly we're on peak metering and it's time to cut some energy? Or what do we want to do with it? So we can make a lot of informed decisions. And because we're in KNX, then we can control all the devices and look at what we want to do. Just a quick look at some of the KNX devices in case you don't know them. The first one is the energy actuator, which is a 3-channel device. It'll take up to 16 amps per channel, and we can individually meter each channel in that and get a total output as well. We can do all sorts of stuff with it. We can pull the information when we want, and it's really quite a simple, easy device. As I said, it's 3 channels. We can look at active power, currents, and voltages, as well as other sort of variables that are available. We can monitor them. We can look at thresholds. When we go over a threshold, we can, I don't know, we can switch off a channel. There's all sorts of things we can do with it. It's really quite interesting. Have a look at all the settings on it. It's really, really quite a useful device. Next in line is the ZSS meter interface. Now, the ZSS interface is quite a useful device because it can take all the information from any of the ABB meters up electrical between the two devices. You can see on the right-hand side there of the ZSS interface, you can see there's a little optical interface. Once you put that beside the meter, it can read all the meter information straight out with no electrical connection needed. So it's really quite a safe device. So again, it can take any of the values out of the meter, send them in a KNX telegram back to us, and we can collect and gather the information. The third device I want to bring to your attention are the new switch actuators, 2 channel, 4 channel, 8 channel, and 12 channel devices. And these, the professional version of these, have energy functionality built into them. So you can do an awful lot. They have, there's a setting set up, and I'd ask you to go and have a look at these devices. They really are quite powerful and are used in, well, you can use them in virtually anywhere you want to use them, that you need to manage, look at and see what's happening with energy usage in the system. They're really quite good. I'd encourage you to have a look. Just have a quick look. You'll find them on our websites. The whole idea of all these devices then, of course, is to take all the energy measurement and feed it back to our EQmatic devices, whereby we can generate nice displays and dashboards, and we can have multiple users logged in. These multiple users create their own dashboard. We can give them privileges to make a dashboard. We can make them admin, all the usual stuff you'd expect with user administration in a system. The idea behind the devices is that they're really compact modular devices, and they'll sit, small devices, 4 mod wide, sit in any switchboard. They comply with all the ISO standards, such as ISO 50001, and they'll comply with some of the VTE standards. And as a result of all that, they make building energy flow and cost transparent, because it really, when I show you later, you'll just see, I'd say it time and time again, how easy these things are to use. I know guys that have used them in swimming pools, in various plants and installations around the place. And once they've set one up and they just learn, like any new device, once you learn the tricks of a new device, it's easy to set up and it's a very, very quick job after that. As I said, the EQmatics will collect data from KNX meters and sensors, MBus meters, and Modbus RTU meters. It's accessed via a web browser, and we can use it then for remote monitoring and analysis. We can send all the information to BMS, SCADAs, and Cylon, and any other system you want to take it to. In line with that, we give the ability to store data locally. I know there are a lot of people nowadays are nervous of data integrity, where we're sharing data, etc., etc. The beauty of the EQmatic is that it sits on your network in your building, and nobody else can get access from the outside. So it's really quite a good device for that. Also remember, it can store your data for up to 3 years. At least 3 years of data will store on the device. So really, it gives you, it's a no-brainer. It's really useful and easy. If we look at the device technology and what we're typically sitting on our TCP network, we're going to have our 3 EQmatics connected, as you can see there. Starting on the left, starting on the right, sorry, you'll have the Modbus meters connected to the QAS4. This device will take any Modbus meter you want. The Modbus mapping, register mapping, is done for all the ABB meters. However, if you want a non-ABB meter or a different meter connected to it, you can create your own meter instance, define the mapping for that, and use that throughout your project. It's really quite handy. The guy in the middle, the MBus meter, he will take any information from any MBus meters. Typically, you'll have electricity meters will be direct connected. for gas, water, and all that sort of stuff, you may have to put a pulse counter in the middle that will take all the pulses from your meters, convert them to MBus, and send the information to the meter. And lastly, on the left-hand side, we have our KNX devices that can take the information from all the KNX meters and KNX devices, implement load shedding, and then all share this information back onto our network. So back on our network, then we have access via a standard web browser. We can send emails or we can store data on a network drive using file transfer protocol. So again, you're keeping all the information locally stored safely on your own network. Of course, if you want to, you can share all this data onto a cloud platform via an API. Really quite simple. You can set up your API connection. You can define a key for it, an authorization key, and you can share that key with whoever you need to connect to it. We can also, via Modbus, integrate into SCADA, BMS visualizations, and all sorts of stuff. We have all our standard visualizations that we use, but again, because it's on Modbus, we can connect anywhere we want to any device. And finally, of course, because we have integrated into SCADA, BMS visualizations, Cylon, PLCs, whatever we have integrated, these two can manage and control KNX devices. So from these head-end pieces of software, we can have logic control, we have load shedding, all the sort of stuff we want to do in the building is available to us, and we can fire KNX commands back onto our network, and using that then, we can control whatever we want to do. Here's our three flavors, as it were, of EQmatic. First is our QAS 116.1, which is our KNX device. This device will allow us to connect up to 16 KNX meters to the system. The meter bus version in the middle will allow us to, it comes in two sizes. We have 16 meters and 64 meters. And same for the Modbus version. We have a 16 device or a 64 device. Remember, all these devices will need power supply, live and neutral connected to them. So you see that on the bottom, there's a connection on the bottom for the live and neutral. As I said, the user interface is via the web browser. I'll show you this later. But the user interface gives us a configurable dashboard. We have graphical analysis, we have management, system settings, and load control for the KNX devices. Again, I'll demonstrate this in more detail later. Here's just a brief table then showing you what's available with order codes and design numbers. And all the device information, as usual, is available at abb.com/KNX. For those of you that don't know, this is the repository for all our documentation referring to KNX, etc., etc. When you go in there, you'll see all products and download. You'll be able to filter that down to energy management, and within that section, then you will find the EQmatics. In there, you will find data sheets. You'll find everything you need to know about the device. You have CAD drawings, certificates, connection diagrams, the manuals, any ETS files if you need them. Everything is in there, and it's all freely available and easily downloadable for you. Of course, with that, we also have lots of training material in there. The factory do these regular training sessions, and any session they do, certainly the time doesn't always suit us here in Australia, but any session they do, they will record them. And you can see an example there of where he has set up an EQmatic, he has connected it up, and he's showing you how to do all the connections, the group address connections that need to be done with the devices. So if you're stuck and you need some information, you can't get me or you can't get any of the guys, please have a look in there. There's lots of useful information in there. Of course, all the training is there and all the videos, slides, webinars, everything is available. If you go on to watch the webinar, download all the slides that are in PDF and you'll be able to go walk through that and look at the connections to see how to put the devices together. So just in conclusion, EQmatic gives us a compact energy monitoring solution, allowing customers to assign and monitor sub-metering data via web-based devices to improve energy efficiency. It allows us to monitor energy and cost allocation, reduce cost, and it complies with some of the provisions of the ISO standards that we may need. Okay. That's just a very, very brief introduction to the device. Like I said, I don't want to spend all day here. This slide deck, believe it or not, is up to 375 slides, but I really have quite a lot of them hidden today. First thing we must do is plan our system before we go and connect up to it. What have we to do? Well, the EQmatic will sit on any 10-base-T network. So is that available to us? Are we on a VLAN? How are we connecting to it? What are we doing? We just need to look at all that sort of stuff and have a think before we go and connect it. For example, the ones with Modbus, how are we connecting to our Modbus meters? How long is, we have to look at distances, we have to look at all that sort of stuff, end-of-line resistors. If we look at KNX, where are we connecting it in the KNX system? It's going to sit as a device in our KNX network. How and where do we do it? So we've all the typical planning that we should do before any installation. If we look at the technical data for the device, it's certified according to EN 50491, which of course is the KNX standard. We can connect up to 16 meters. We can have a maximum number of group objects of 1630. Now that's quite a lot for any of you that do a bit of KNX programming will know, well, you know, there's a whole lot of work gone into that one. With a maximum number of group addresses of 2000. So it really is quite a big device that can handle a lot of work. You can see all the power consumption, device leakage, etc. Simultaneous web access for up to 10 users. So remember, if I have a web interface open, up to 10 guys can simultaneously connect to the network and get the same information. The EQmatic itself will store the meter data every 5 minutes. And of course, with IP security, HTTPS plus SSL is available. If we're exporting data, we can export it in the various formats, JPEG, CSV, XLS, PDF. And we can transfer data over Modbus if we like, and we can create reports. I'll show you that as well. I have some set up, and it's really quite simple. We can set up FTP and email reports, whereby the device will automatically, we can set it to automatically a daily report, a weekly report. We can set a monthly, whatever we want to do, we can set up a report on the system and it will mail the data out in whatever standard we pick. Temperature ranges is all standard, dimensions is all standard. They're all typical sort of standard stuff on a device then. Installing the device, well, of course, we've got to pay attention to all electrical standards. And as I said, these devices will have 230 volts connected to them. So just be careful. In the box, of course, we have all the usual stuff. We take the device out of the box. We've all the installation instructions, etc., etc. Remember as well that the device is set to DHCP automatically once it's pulled out of the box. So you stick it onto a normal network, it will give itself an IP address straight out of the box. Also remember, it's a KNX device, so our factory KNX device address is 15.15.255. So you will need to give it a device address on your network and download the application to it. And of course, we have our usual KNX connections on the bottom of it. There's just a quick look at the device. It's like any of our standard KNX devices. I've left this slide in just to give a quick overview of the LEDs on a device. Very often when I'm talking to guys, you know, have a look at what's happening with the LEDs on the front of the device. Is the power on? Is the LAN working? Is the KNX flickering? We can see what each of these means. If the green light is on, the system is fine, it's working, everything's okay. If it's flashing at 1 Hertz during initialization when we first power up the device, it will flash like that for about a minute while the device powers up, gets its IP address, sets itself up on the network, checks everything internally, and then it will be ready. If it's at 3 Hertz, we're resetting the network settings and restarting the device. If it's at 10 Hertz, we've just done a factory reset, or possibly we have an internal error with the device, something else to be aware of. The LAN links are quite obvious, and you know, if there's no activity on the LAN, the LED's on. If it's flashing, there's activity on it. And the KNX one will generally be on flicker on and off when we are sending telegrams and receiving telegrams in the KNX network. However, for the MBus and Modbus, when you are scanning for devices, this is where you'll see it. You'll see this will flicker as you're scanning for devices or resetting the device. There's just what you'll see as the device is starting up. It's really quite simple and easy. As I said, the LED is going to flash at 1 Hertz for 60 to 70 seconds just while the device is starting up. Outside of that, it should stay solid green. You won't see anything. Just another piece of useful information. We can reset this device back to factory reset. There is a reset button hidden on the front of the device behind the label holder. So if we press this button for less than 2 seconds, you can see there nothing happens. Between 2 and 10 seconds, we will restart the device. So the device will just restart and off it goes again. Between 10 and 20 seconds, we're going to reset the network settings. And greater than 20 seconds, we will perform a factory reset on the device. Okay? Just useful information, very useful information. Commissioning, of course, when we first connect up and we power it up, how do we find this device and where do we get to it on our network? Well, you can go and scan your network. You can go and use the iBus tool. I'll show you that later. So the iBus tool will automatically detect it on your network and you'll be able to open the web page from there. Yeah, it's quite easy. Once you've opened the web page, you have to go step by step and you have to do your setup for your device step by step. First, of course, is your ETS parameterization. I'll show you that in a couple of minutes. Then we want to connect up our device, open the website, log in. We'll set system settings, which is usernames, passwords, date and time, and all the usual network settings that we'll do when we're setting up a new device. Next, we'll do our meter management. We'll configure settings for bus scans if we have to do it. And you'll see I have star down the bottom for the KNX version of this device. All of these settings are done in ETS, and I'll show you that because it's important to get that right. Next step then is to configure any tariffs if we want to set that up. We can set up our building structure and you're done. Once you're through that step, you're then ready to start configuring dashboards and start gathering information and using it as you want. Here's a quick look at some of the parameters. The iBus tool, for those of you that don't know, is a free tool that's downloadable from abb.com/KNX. And we use it to configure and to check a lot of our KNX devices. It's very handy. Worth downloading and worth having a look at. You can see here we're showing where you find it and how you connect to it. Once we connect to it, we log on to the web interface. And of course, being a standard web-based device, everybody has an admin password. Remember, when you log in, it's going to force you to change password. Get your passwords, write it down in a safe place, keep it forever. Then we will start our configuration through the step-by-step wizard as we go through to set up the device. So first thing is start your configuration, and the first thing it's going to ask you is your new password. And if you take note, the password must be 9 characters, contains capital letters, small letters, and non-numeric. Yeah, so we got to do that. Then we go and set up our device, our network settings. Are we going to use DHCP? Are we going to manage that ourselves? So here's where you can do this at the start. We set up our date and time, which of course, because we're connected to the internet, we can run it off of pool.ntp. And we can take the time depending on where we're set up and what zone. We can set our currency and all that sort of stuff. CO2 emissions is there. After that, then we're completed. We're ready to go. We've set up the device. That is the first steps you have to do with every device when you get it out of the box, connect it to the network and connect to it. The next stage is to get into your commissioning of the device. Now, this is where I'm going to hop out of PowerPoint because I'm sure you're all bored watching PowerPoint at this stage. And let me show you some of what I'm talking about. So the first thing is If I look at my iBus tool, which you should be able to see there now, just anybody let me know if you can't see it. If you can't see it, everything's fine. So I have my iBus tool running here. I can connect to my iBus tool. I can look for my IP devices. And it'll go and search and finds all the IP devices I have on my network. So you'll see here, I can select the device. And once it's finished scanning, I can directly open the website and connect to the device. Now, I don't need to do that, of course, because, hey, presto, I have one open here already. Here's one I made earlier. So, of course, as we said, I have set up my admin password already. I've used this plenty of times. So I can get straight into the device. If I'm right with my password, which I am, and I have all my dashboards set up. And it will pull all the information you can get from the device. Before I let you see that, though, what I want to show you first is I have my ETS open now. And in ETS here, you can see I have taken my energy analyzer and I've gone through the parameters and I've set up a number of different meters for the device. So, of course, first things first, give it a device name. Doesn't matter, it's just a free piece of text. Are we going to use load control? Yes or no? We can set up load control here if we want to use load control. Then we're into setting up our 16 meters. Now, what we input here is what the EQmatic is going to see. So, first one I've set up here is my ZSS interface. And again, it's just a download, or sorry, a drop-down menu, and just select from my drop-down menu, what am I talking to? I've just given it a name here. It's just random text. I give it a location and I've given it a serial number. I can monitor this to check that it's in operation. Look for the heartbeat signal every minute and just make sure everything's okay. Because I'm connected, I've selected a ZSS. We know a meter type is an ABB A or B series. What version have we connected? Well, in this case, I have a direct connected one here, just sitting in a switchboard here beside me. And it's a 2-wire meter. Yeah, 2-wire live and neutral. I haven't set up any tariffs. I haven't registered for export energy. And I can send the power values to load control. I'll show you what that means later. So this is where I'll configure all my devices from here. So meter 2 then, I've set up as a sensor. So sitting here beside me, I have temperature and brightness coming from 2 devices. And I'll show you what happens when that gets through. And you can see I can connect up to 10 different values through here. For number 3, I've set a different sensor. I'm reading temperature and I'm reading humidity. And meter 4 here, I'm actually connected to an energy actuator, okay? So I have the energy actuator set up. And again, we've just got text for what is the meter, what are we doing? In this case, I'm not going to send the values to load control. That's fine. So then I have my energy actuator here, and being a typical device, I've set up sort of metering. I've set up all these parameters I've gone and connected. You can have a look at that later when you have more time. You can see here I have connected up group addresses to fire the values out. So at least the values can be fired out and the EQmatic will pick up anything I need. Yeah, that's all good. One thing to remember, you do need, if you're using one of these devices, this measurement circuit active needs to be connected because that will send a group address to the EQmatic to let it know that the device is active and still working. It needs that. If it doesn't have this group address, it won't work. So having set all this up, I download there and my EQmatic. I have the same thing, and you can see I have connected all my group addresses here where I have set up my meters, my meter readings. I've set up my temperatures, humidities, and all that sort of stuff. And I download this to the EQmatic just straight away. Yeah, quite simple, quite straightforward. If I go and look at my meters, here is where the information follows through from that I have just downloaded from ETS. Yeah. So you can see my first one, my ZSS interface, there's the text that I've put into the system. That's the text that I have programmed in. If I look at the action menu, I'll be able to see what's available straight from that. Yeah. So you can see I've had this meter a couple of years sitting here. So 181,310 watt hours. Yeah, currently I'm on 13.95 watts. Power factor is 0.42, 0.1 amps, 232 volts, so 233, 50 hertz. Yeah. And you can see all the information. It's getting this straight across. Yeah. So if I go back, I can look. The others are just sensors. So the sensors then are just reading temperature and humidity. Yeah. Oh, sorry, this one's reading temperature and lux. My other sensor then, I'm reading, what am I reading in this? I'm reading humidity and temperature. That's fine. It's quite cold in the house today. It's only 17 degrees. And for my energy actuator then, you can see I'm reading all the information it's pulling across that I've connected up. Yeah. So 55 watt hours, you can see all the data is available. Everything's coming through. Everything looks fine. I've got comms working. So everything's happy. See, status is okay here. Yeah. It's quite simple, quite easy. What I have to do next is I need to set up a meter structure. So the meters have arrived in here. The device knows what it has. It knows what's connected. So now I've got to set up a meter structure. So in my meter structure, I play around with this, and you see I do this all the time, but I've started out with my ground floor. I had one in here for a long time. I had the power set in here, but what I've done now is I've moved the electricity to a separate branch. So I have the energy actuator and the power, and I've left my temperatures and all that sort of stuff coming in here separately. So I can set up virtual meters, metering points, whatever I want here. So I could set up, for example, if I had if I had a project and I was, say, measuring all the lighting load, I could set up a branch here just measuring lighting load and connect all the lighting meters into it. I could set up, say, another branch for HVAC, and I could connect all the HVAC meters into it. So I can set up a nice tree here for all of my system. And using this, then I'll be able to play with all my meters and do what I want in here. While I'm in here in the management tab, you can look at, I also have user management. Typically, you add users, put people in and out, do whatever you want to do. We have our tariffs here. All I've set up really is my electricity. I haven't bothered water, gas, or heat because I don't use them. I have nothing set up here. Consumer groups. If I have consumer groups, it's a pretty handy thing as well. I might say everybody on the first floor is going to business AB1. Second floor could be AB2. And I can create a consumer group for that. So all the power, say the HVAC, the lighting can be grouped into one. And I can get everything out for that consumer group. It's really quite a useful function. Last in this tab then is the data sharing. So you can see I've shared data here over Modbus. So these values will be available over Modbus. I can click here and it shows me all the Modbus points that are available. Gives me the Modbus registers. So if I connect a device up here that wants to collate the data and pull the data from the EQmatic, it can know what registers to pull, and we get everything out of here straight away. I can also look at my ZSS. So my ZSS, for example, it's pulling all this information directly from the meter. So we can take it all straight out and we can use it somewhere else that we need it. Yeah. If you want, you can export all this into an XML file and it gives you all the mapping tables. So it's really quite useful. If the guys, say, are doing a head-end software and connecting via Modbus to a number of these devices, they'll be able to connect to it quite easily and find all the information they need. Okay. While I'm down here, I might as well look at the system. So system is just general information that we have with date and time. It's pulling it straight. We have network connection. Here he is connected onto my network. Updates, if there's any updates available. SMTP for doing any emails, anything like that. SSL certificates if you want to connect via SSL. I have separately tried this using a piece of code. I wrote some code and I was able to get the code to run and to pull the information straight from the meter. So if anybody's handy at coding, it's a very easy way to write a few lines of code. You can pull whatever you want out of the device, and it's very easy to do it. Arrays data does exactly what it says in the tin. We can reset the device. System log, we can see what's been happening here today, what's Ian been doing, what's he been messing with earlier on. And then system diagnostics gives us all the information on the device. Now, remember I said how these devices will store sort of up to at least 3 years information on them. I mean, I've had this device sitting here beside me for at least, I don't know, a couple of years now at this stage. And you can see there's still 92.58% free in the database. So, you know, it's fine. It keeps going. Everything's fine. We never have an issue. I haven't tested it. I haven't got that far, but anyway, we'll get there. Now, to the important part is the dashboard. So this is the user dashboard, and each user can configure their own dashboard. They can take what they want. They can bring it up what they want. They can move everything around. You can see just what I set up here this morning was I'm reading the meter voltage directly from the device. I have its frequency, meter power, the total energy that we have read, and the power factor I'm reading from it. Down the side here, you can see I'm reading humidities at 61 and a bit percent. I have temperature in that room is 17. Brightness, it's actually starting to get dark here now. We're down to 29 lux. Sun was shining earlier at about 4,000 lux, but now it's dropped right back down. Temperature here is nice and warm, it's 20 degrees. I have consumption in here. This is pulling all the energy usage back that I have going on and off. You can see when I was playing with things and things are happening. We can look and see what's happening here. From my energy actuator, you can see channel A has had 25 watt hours through it today. Currently there's 0.05 an amp. There's just a few LEDs connected to that channel. There's not a lot happens in that channel. I'm taking the voltage as well, just as an example. We can do other things with it. And then for channel B, I'm doing the same. It's actually switched off at the moment. And everything's just sitting there. If we want, we can edit mode. When we edit, we can choose what we want to stick in, or what do we want to put in here? Let's put in another historical data. We'll take it from the building node. We can take, say, power. We can look at its consumption. We can take electricity, what type of chart you want. And we can give it any name we want. We just go test. And we create a nice new widget in here showing us what's happening over the last few months, actually. Okay. On these consumption widgets, a bit of a tongue twister, we can look at the last month, for example, last 7 days. So you can see there's really not a lot happening. And then I've been getting ready here. So I've been playing and testing things out. Last month, as I said, last half of the year. See, for here, a few weeks I had it. I actually moved house in April, so I had to unplug for quite a while. And then we can look at the last year's data. Yeah. So quite easily, we can have a look at all this and we can do what we want with it. Of course, we might want to drag it somewhere down here where we can make it bigger. Yep. So I might decide, no, I don't like that one there. I think this one, can I pull this one down here? When it does that on me. Now, so I can take that consumption and we can drag our widgets across and we can make a nice widget. So you can go in here, and as long as you can say, pick a button, what do we want to show? We want to show consumer rankings if we have different consumers. We can look at costs, or we can look at instant values. And it's a matter then of looking at building node, sorry. Say, look at my energy actuator. What am I looking at? Well, there's only electricity in there. What value do we want to display from that list? That is all the values that are available from the energy actuator, and you can just take them. Let's look at the power factor, say, from L1. I can put alarms in around that level if I want. I can give it a custom name. I can say channel B, for example, power factor. Yep. We can show it as a gauge. We can say a serial chart or a single value. Gauge is okay. And we can save it. Now he'll go off and get the data for that. Okay. And then it's obviously in the wrong place because that's beside channel A, so we can just drop them down to there. So users can define their own dashboard. What do they want to see? What is important for them to see in this dashboard? It's quite interactive. If I go back to the iBus tool, you can see I was connected already. I can go back and connect to a device. Now I know my energy actuator is 11102. I can connect here. Okay. So again, we can see all the values through what's happened today. You can see I have channel A is on. I can go into configuration mode, switch on channel B. My other lights come on here beside me. And the second here, you get more values coming through, but we can look at the values here. And this is really quite useful as well. You can see we pulled through all the power values for each channel. We can look at real power, apparent power. We can look at, interestingly, you can look at the power factor for the two channels. Channel A has some LEDs on it. Channel B has some good old-fashioned light bulbs on it. And look at the difference in the power factor there. That's really a huge difference. Then we can see voltages and all that, crest factors. Everything's available there. If I go back to here now, you can see my power factor has corrected itself. And I've set up some alarms. So it tells me when everything happens, yeah? So my power factor now has gone from 0.4 up to 0.823 altogether. And again, you can see the energy coming through. I have a few alarms set up here. For example, I can click here. I have an alarm set up, of course, because I've only a couple of amps here. You know, I'm just setting a couple of alarms up just to see and just to show what happens. But you can use this quite well because you can say, okay, I've switched on that channel. There should be power coming here. I probably have, I don't know, take a normal lighting circuit, might have 7 or 8 amps on it, whatever. If I have switched it on and I don't see 7 or 8 amps, then I can trigger an alarm because obviously something's not working. And you saw how it triggered alarms up here every time I did something. So you can do all sorts of stuff here with these alarms. You can decide when do you want alarms, what schedules you want, what are we going to do with it, severity of alarms. There's quite a lot you can do here to set up and control and manage this dashboard. And like I said, it's configurable for each user. So each user can come in and do what is important to them, and they can set their own information up here. It's really, really quite useful for that. That alarm function is available on the KNX version of it only. So just be careful of that. Don't get the Modbus version, expect that you won't have it. So as you see now, I can drag, I can drop, I can really do anything we want on this dashboard. I can change the configuration of this widget. Let's make him a column. And he goes and pulls the information for us. Yeah. Configure the widget. We can make him a smooth line. Yeah. Or then we can make him a step. You know, whatever people want to look at, it's available. And you can slide up and down. You can see what energy usage there is. Okay. So that's the main dashboard, and that's available for all of the devices have the same sort of dashboard. You go in, you create your widgets, you add a widget. When you're finished, you click done, and that's it. You have everything available to you. Yeah. You can have a nice dashboard showing all you need. Next important tab to look at is the analytics. So what can I do? Well, let's see. I can look at my energy consumption. You can see this guy, energy actuator, is just really, I've been using him today. I can look at my power. Okay, I've moved him there today, but I can look at this guy. And I can say, okay, resolution for days. What do we want to look at? We can look at the usage split. We can look at the instantaneous values. There's no on him, of course, because he's not active now. But in the energy actuator, I can look at the instantaneous values for energy. Yeah, click on it, and it'll just give me a little scroll of what's currently happening on it. There you go. We can look at that. If it's available, it will go and pull the data and pull the information for us. We're better off to look at the power. Loading. There we go. But you get there we go. Now you can see the energy usage as I've been here now playing with things, yeah? So it's quite useful like that. You can see the current live values and currently what's happening. What you can also do is up here, you can set a benchmark period. So I can say, look at this power here, for example. And you can see here, I've looked at a benchmark period now, and I compared, say, May this year compared to June this year. And you can see the differences between the two. I can change that, scroll in and have a look. And we can say each day. So you can very quickly find any peaks in here. And you can go on, well, okay, the June usage was way higher or way lower, or what's the change? You can see here it's pretty average, but you imagine now you're comparing energy used this month versus energy used last month. And you can see, for example, on a Saturday, there's a huge amount of power used this month where there wasn't last month. Well, maybe there's a light left on, maybe there's a circuit not turned off, and you can see various things on it. It's very useful to have these benchmark periods, benchmarking against different values, benchmarking against different time periods. You can go and have a look, and you can play with all this. You can see what's happening. Really, it takes all the information and all the data for you. You can see, look at that now. I have one is way bigger than the other. What was going on there in May? I don't know. Maybe I was playing with something and testing something. So, be aware that it's a really, really, really useful way of finding information that's that's fairly useful to end users. We can look at benchmarks for consumers. Now, unfortunately, I only have power set up here. I haven't got any other consumer set up. But you can see I can look at the benchmarks for these things. I can create reports. So what I did yesterday was I set up a few FTP reports. I saved them to an FTP server I have here. I got that open. Let me have a look and see. Yep, there's my FTP server. So I have another PC here beside me running an FTP server. I let that sit there and run overnight, and it's created a couple of reports for me. So when I get those reports, then I can, no, that's not what I wanted. I've taken the data. So there's the monthly data for the electricity. And these are the sort of reports you'll get out of the system. Very, very simple, very easy. Whenever my computer is finished, yeah, there we go. So I can look at ground floor consumption. So we will sum it by hour in this case. Yeah, it's all summed across. And if I have multiple consumers and multiple things, you imagine you're going to get horizontally, you're going to get a lot. It'll give you your hourly, your daily, whatever way you've set it up. And down the end, then, no, it's a long report, see? It just exported all that data for me. Down at the end, it's all totaled up for that period, yeah? So you can create all these different reports that will show all the data and give you here's my daily data. So yesterday or today, there we go. There's yesterday's daily data as I was playing with the system yesterday. So I can see each hour what it's consumed. I can see the total consumption for the day. I only have a small test panel here, not a lot in it, a few KNX devices. But imagine you have a building, and imagine you can get all this information out for your building. You can get it per floor, per board, per meter, all that sort of stuff. You can get a heap of information out here, visualize it in Excel, do what you want in Excel. It's all there at your hand, ready to go. And like I said, you can set this up to email to people. You can set it up to FTP, whatever you need to do. The ability to do it is there, and it's quite easy and quite simple to set up. Okay. So that's there. And here's the alarms that I've just sort of set up and played with this today and played with. You can see I can also get email notifications. I can get UI notifications if I want from alarms. Yeah. We can do all sorts of stuff. The last tab I haven't looked at yet is the load control tab. So you can see in this case, I've exceeded my load limit. Yeah. I'm going to load shedding stage number 2 because, of course, I switched on some lights. Yeah. We can edit all this in here, or you can disable it. So, we can put a load limit in here, put a hysteresis around it, give it a time limit around on and off. Remember at the very start, I said, when I was looking at the KNX settings, I said, enable this one for load limiting, but don't enable this one for load limiting. So you can see here, here's what our load limits are based around. Yeah. Of course, we can start it and stop it from here. And again, that's configurable. You can disable and enable it from KNX. Yeah. So if I go back to here and turn off channel B, this will drop down in a few seconds now. Yeah, there we go. Didn't go down as much as I thought. Oh, I turn off all my lights. I'm sitting in the dark. I've got alarms now because we've dropped loads. So the alarms are working. And that should actually drop below the limit. I'd expected it to, but it didn't. No, it's not going to drop below my limit, is it? Oh, there we go. It'll drop below the limit. And watch the load shedding then will time out in 30 seconds. So we put a bit of hysteresis in around there because you don't want it sort of hovering around the limit and going on and off all the time and chattering relays and things like that. So it's good to be able to set those load limits in there and play with it. And of course, you can test it and play with it and everything's fine. Okay, we've gone down a stage. Yeah, we've gone from stage 2 to stage 1. And I think if I give it another 30 seconds, it will probably go again. Let's see, will it go again? Come on. No, it's not going to. Will in a second. I have faith. I should have changed that to 5 seconds, of course. Okay. There we are. Now we're down to stage 0. So that's our load shedding and how our load shedding will work. Yeah. And that load shedding stage can be sent out to some relays, and those relays can decide, yes, okay, we'll turn off a couple of channels. You could also feed that to some logic, and you could use some logic then to control, turn off some lighting, reduce temperature set points, any of that sort of stuff to do some load shedding if you had to do it. It's quite useful and it's quite powerful. You have it in KNX. Once you have it in KNX, you can go and do something with it and make some decisions based on it.